Hello folks, it's that time of year again. Non-League to Legend starts tomorrow here on the channel, 4 PM. And as ever, I thought before we get into it, I should probably take a few minutes just to remind everybody of the rules. Because this is my big save. This is the fifth year in a row now that we've done Non-League to Legend on the channel. And the thing that makes Non-League to Legend special, the thing that makes it this epic journey, the thing that helps it develop the stories that always develop as part of it, are the fact that we play according to a set of rules. It makes it different from a normal Football Manager series or a standard Football Manager save, because there are certain things we have to do and certain things we can't do, and those things make for some interesting sort of crunch points, decision-making points within the series. And they also make the game a bit harder, because I don't know if anyone else feels this way over the last few versions of FM, but I think you'll have probably seen it in the beta saves that I've done this year, both with Manchester United, the one with Posh, the one with Hamburg. The game can be pretty easy these days if you exploit every exploit that's within it and use every feature that's available to you and take all the help that's there. It's pretty hard to fail at Football Manager if you let yourself do everything to the best you can do it. So I don't want my long-term save to just be 5 consecutive promotions in a Champions League and everything's wrapped up in 8 years, because that's boring. I want there to be times when it's hard. I want us to sign players who aren't any good. I want to make bad decisions. I want things to go wrong, and I don't want to fake that stuff just for the drama. I want to apply restrictions that mean that stuff naturally happens. And that's where the Non-League to Legend rules come in. And the reason for putting this out as a video, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, I know a lot of people like to play along, and if you want to play along, you can use these as your guidelines if you so choose. I'm not saying you have to play the game this way, but if you want to call it Non-League to Legend, and if you want to play it this way, if you want to play it the Kev way, these are the rules to follow to make sure you do that. But also, it's always handy to have this video out to refer people to in February when they're saying, Kev, sign this player and then change to this formation. I can say, well, I can't do either of those things because they would be breaking the rules of the save. Or the big thing that always causes people to kick off is when I change clubs at a time when you don't think I should have changed clubs. Case in point, last year when I left Forest Green to go to Bristol Rovers, there was uproar that I left a team that was running away with League Two to go and manage a team in a relegation zone in the Championship. But following the rules, there wasn't even a decision to make. It was super easy to decide what to do. I did the right thing according to the rules of the game. It might not necessarily be what you'd have done or what I'd have done if I wasn't playing with these rules, but I think it made for a more interesting overall series. So the rules are, rule number 1 is that you start the save at the team closest to your house in the lowest playable league. And this is open to a little bit of interpretation if you're not in the UK. If you're living in England, it's super easy. The lowest playable league on the vanilla version of the game is the National League North and South. On Non-League to Legend, we don't use edited databases. So it is just on the vanilla version of the game. So if you're in England, you're looking at the Vanarama National League North, Vanarama National League South, and you're just picking the club closest to where you live. For my YouTube series, I put an extra proviso on that it can't be a team that I've started with in the past. Otherwise, the last 4 years in a row would have all been Boston. And that gets a bit boring after a while, doing the same club every time. So for me, this year, Kings Lynn are the club closest to my house in the lowest playable league. They've just newly got promoted into the National League North, and I think actually a little bit nearer than Boston anyway, so we would have actually got a change this year. But yeah, Kings Lynn for me. You can work it out for yourself for you. If you don't live in the UK and you want to follow along, there's a couple of different interpretations I've seen people use. One is you literally follow the rules to the letter and pick the lowest playable league in the country that you're in, and then the nearest team to your house. So if you're in the US, the MLS is your lowest playable league, so you just pick the nearest MLS team. If you're in a country that doesn't have a playable league, then you'll have to pick the nearest country that's playable and then their lowest playable league. Your other option is just to pick England if you want to start in England, even if you're not here, and just pick the one nearest to the border to get to your place. So if you are in the US, what would be the lowest playable league in England? What would be the closest team in England in the lowest playable leagues? Is there any teams in like Cornwall or places like that you could choose? And I'm not going to dictate who you manage, but don't start with Leicester because they're your nearest team. That doesn't count because they're in the Premier League already. Rule number 2 is that every decision you make in game must be based on the decision you would make in real life. And this is where that changing clubs thing comes into account. And it's not quite as simple as if you get offered more money, you have to go, because that's not necessarily how it works in real life. But you have to be realistic with this. So as an example, if I'm starting with Kings Lynn, which I am, let's say they're paying me £400 a week. If I get offered £450 a week to go and manage Gateshead, then I'm not going to go to Gateshead because an extra £50 a week isn't really worth moving all that way. Whereas if I was offered £1,000 a week to go and manage Gateshead, I would probably go. I would drop down a division if someone offered to double my salary. Likewise, if I'm being offered a job abroad, I need a significant pay rise. It's always possible to go abroad in Non-League to Legend, as we've seen, but it's not necessarily easy, just like in real life, because if I'm managing Kings Lynn on £500 a week, and some team in the bottom division in Argentina offers me even £700 or £800 a week, you've also got to factor in the fact that I've got to move to Argentina. And I don't think earning, 40 grand a year or whatever £800 a week is, more than that, isn't it? Is it? I don't know. But 40 grand a year, I'm not going to go and live in Argentina for 40 grand a year. I need, it's a long way from home. I need significant compensation to go there. And obviously, you'll all have numbers in mind and places you'd love to live. And it might be your dream to be able to live in Argentina and you'd go there on a pay cut. If that's the case, that's the decision you'd make in real life. So it's not as simple as money, but money obviously plays a big part in it. And I know you'll sometimes get people say, well, I wouldn't leave Forest Green to go to Bristol Rovers for all the money in the world. Those people are liars, because in any job, if you're offered, I think I was offered like 3 times the money that was on at Forest Green. So they offered to treble my salary. I don't care who you are, what job you do. If someone offers to treble your salary, unless the new job is killing puppies, you're probably going to go and take that new job on treble the money, especially if it's the same job you're doing now, just in a different company, and someone offers you 3 times the money. Of course you're going to go. Rule number 3 is there will be no use of the player search screen at any point. I do not touch the player search screen. Further to this, the only players that I can sign are players that are identified by my in-game scouts or staff. I say or staff because I do sometimes have conversations with the director of football, and again, it's all about trying to play the game as realistically as possible. In real life, your under-18s coach might be able to recommend a player to you that you might want to go and send your scouts to. Your director of football probably has a short list of good left-backs that he wants to share with you. All of that is fine. What I don't think you can do in real life, and people always argue with me about this, and I don't care, this is the rule. What you can't do in real life is say, I really need a left-back with 18 acceleration, 16 pace, 14 tackling. I want him to have a strong left foot but not be too bad on his right foot. I also want him to be able to play centre-back a little bit, but it'd be really handy if he's a defensive midfielder. And I'd like him to have been born in Bath. You can't go and do that in real life. That's not how football scouting works. So I don't do it in game because it makes the game too easy. If you can search for the perfect player in every position and then go and get them, you win everything within 5 years. And then what's the point? It's a foregone conclusion you're going to win. The thing I like about relying on the staff, especially when you're still down in the lower leagues, is your staff are going to be rubbish. So you're relying on scout reports and coach reports from scouts and coaches that aren't actually very good. So they could scout a player as a 5-star current ability superstar, and when he comes in, he's absolute trash. That's great when that happens because that's realistic. I don't want ever to have a Football Manager save where every signing I make is perfect and improves the team and is exactly what we were looking for, because that's not how real life football is. In real life, certainly, I mean, I'm a posh fan. We're in League One. the last couple of years, we've signed like 10 players each summer, and at least 5 of them have been rubbish. You know, and that's a team that's well known for having a good scouting network and being good at developing players and selling them on at a profit. We only have, at best, a 50% success rate on new signings. That's how it should be, and that's in League One. Imagine if we were down in the National League North with a smaller scouting network, poorer staff. As far as I'm concerned, at that level, if 1 in 10 of the players you bring in end up any good, that's brilliant. So, yeah, I rely heavily on the staff. We can do trials, but we're not going to go to the player search to find trialists. They have to be players who have appeared through our scout reports or, you know, through a method that you might find them if this was real life. People always say things like, well, what if I play against a team? Then by all means, if you're playing against a team and you notice someone who's quite good, send a scout to go and have a look at that player because you know about them in game. The key thing is we don't bring any... This is kind of mixing into rule 5 that I've got on my list. We'll mush it all together now. Don't bring any outside knowledge into the game. And this is rule 4 as well. It's all mushed together. So what I mean by don't bring in any outside knowledge, we're not going to use downloaded tactics. We're not going to use downloaded training or downloaded shortlists. We're not going to scout Erling Haaland just because we know he's a wonder kid. If he doesn't show up naturally, he does not exist. We don't know that, you know, my mate in his save found a really good left back that works in League 2. I'm going to go and sign him. That's not non-league to legend. That's playing Football Manager normally. If that left back doesn't appear in your save, he doesn't appear in your save. He has to appear according to your scouts. And I think this rule, more than any of the others, is what makes the game, the save, feels super realistic and makes it fun both to create and to watch, because you do get those ups and downs. You have these teams that come together and are brilliant, but also you have these absolute flops of signings that don't work, and you have relegations and you have struggles and you have sackings, and that's what makes non-league to legend awesome. Because, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to happen this year, but this is year 5 and the previous 4 years have all ended with a Champions League win. So we do traditionally get there in the end, but anyone who's been watching for a long time will remember Tour. And I don't need to say any more. That's what's brilliant about non-league to legend. You can't fully enjoy the highs in football or in Football Manager if you're not constantly beaten down by the lows. The thing that makes a promotion so much fun as a posh fan is that it happens so rarely. More often than not, we're rubbish. So when we are good, it feels so much better. I can't imagine there's as much satisfaction being a Manchester City fan and just winning stuff all the time. Because you see it with Man United fans now, not wanting to dig at Man United fans again. I've done enough of that in my Man United series. It's all in good humour, but Man United fans at the moment are furious that they're, 6th or 7th in the Premier League. You're 6th/7th in the Premier League. That means there's only 6 teams in the entire country better than you. That's still pretty good. You shouldn't be angry about that, but they've had their expectations ruined by too much success. That doesn't happen in non-league to legend, and that's what makes it awesome. And the series starts tomorrow, 4 p.m, here on the channel. We're starting with King's Lynn, and it's going to be super duper, and I hope you come along and join me for it. If you have enjoyed this video, or if you're just excited for the start of the new series, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for oodles of FM20 content coming up in the coming weeks and months. And thank you very much for watching.